Hi guys, thanks again for tuning in to Talk Wrestling. I'm delighted to be joined by the bruiserweight himself, Pete Dunne, at this time. During lockdown, we haven't got Pete on our NXT screens at the moment, but I'm sure he has been watching. And in his place is Tim Thatcher with Matt Riddle at the moment, an ongoing story with the NXT tag team titles. Pete, first of all, mate, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm back in England, and it's a stark change for me to go from being as busy as I have been for the past 3 years to just being stuck at home. But I'm making the most of it and training hard and spending time with the family, so it could be worse.
Yeah, well, like we said, you've got a young family, right? And from the grind of the wrestling schedule, in a weird way, you must miss it, but it must be a welcome break too.
Yeah, I think it's a much needed break in a way. But I think for years and years we talked about maybe is there a way that wrestling could have some kind of off season. I think this is a good trial for that for some of us to be able to be back in England and be with my family and being able to train a bit differently to how I would if I was on the road and wrestling all the time. So I'm just trying to put a positive spin on something that's obviously hugely negative. But if I was going to then spending time with the family, training hard and recouping and then coming back better.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you talk about training as well. I don't know. I mean, for me, training around my house is limited. Like the garden, I can maybe get some little workouts in. But for yourself, have you got any kind of setup there, or are you just making the best that you can?
Yeah, I've had a garage gym for the last 2 years. I prefer training in there as opposed to going to a normal gym anyway. So not a huge change for me.
So I mentioned obviously at the top of this that Tim Thatcher has stepped into the breach the past couple of weeks. A guy I believe from some kind of tag action and stuff in the Progress days and things like that. First of all, what a nice surprise that was for the fans to get Tim in that kind of debut. If you could have picked someone, would it have been Tim, I guess?
Yeah, definitely. I think in terms of someone who matches my demeanour, I don't know if there's anyone uh, who's a much better choice in WWE at the minute. And when I first heard that Tim had signed to WWE, I was surprised, to be honest. I'd seen him around for years and years, and mostly in Germany, actually. Did a little bit in the UK and a little bit in the States. But he always seemed like the epitome of the independent wrestler. He just loves
Yeah.
wrestling, just wants to be a part of it. And I was really surprised when he first signed, but I was so happy to hear it. And the first thing on my mind was going out there and getting to have a match with him and wrestling with him.
Yeah.
But when this opportunity came up for us to hold on to those tag titles and have someone step in place, he would have been my first choice.
Yeah, I think as well in the early going, like recreating that dynamic between yourself and Matt, which obviously is really hard to do, but it's cool that they're at least keeping the story going full stop because obviously we don't know when these things are going to calm down. And Jordan Devlin, of course, was not so lucky with his titles. So you must be delighted anyway that you and Matt this story seems to be here for the long run.
Yeah, it would be such a shame for it all just to end like this. And obviously things are still up in the air. I don't know when there's going to be a chance for me to go back to the US. But it would have been such a shame for something that seems so organic and the fans bought into so much as the team with me and Matt to just end like that. So any way that we can keep it going, and I think in my place for now, Tim is a great substitute, the same demeanour, similar wrestling styles in a way, and someone I respect a lot. So I can't wait to get back and do more with Matt, and hopefully do more with Tim as well, and see how far we can push it with the three of us, maybe.
Well, yeah, I saw you tweet yesterday something about a stable. That's something that interests you, right? You three would be a great little mesh.
Yeah, it'd be great. Like I said, as soon as I heard that Tim was with WWE, he was one of the people on my radar. I want to work with this guy. So I obviously assumed it would be me going against him, but that was the same when Matt Riddle signed too, and look how it turned out. So who knows, the three of us together might be something that the fans really get into, and it'll be exciting to go with that when I get back.
Have you had much from Matt Riddle? I mean, we've had a lot from him on social media, but have you spoke to him a lot, and indeed Triple H, anyone from stateside? Do they keep making contact?
Obviously, it's a really busy time and things are up in the air, but I do stay in touch with Matt and I've stayed in touch with the company, and they've been great throughout all of this. I'm really glad that I get to spend this unusual period back home in England as opposed to being cooped up in the States with a young family. So They've been great, and Matt's great. Obviously, most of my interaction with him these days are on social media because he's all over it. We do stay in touch for sure.
You mentioned as well the fans and how it organically happened. You know, I was at Worlds Collide, and I've seen you guys at various events where they were really hot for you guys. And the Broserweight name came, but as I said to you earlier before we started the call, there were a lot of names flying around for you guys that fans had, and one that I loved was joint manipulation. I thought that was absolutely amazing. How quickly did they settle on the Broserweight name?
To me, it was a close second, but I don't know. Yeah. I was surprised with how much we've got away with in general, to be honest. No, there were some great names flying around, and honestly, I can't even remember how Broserweight stuck. Really, we'd done a few matches on live events in different parts of the country, and there was different chants and different names being tweeted at us, and somehow we ended up sticking with the Broserweights. I think with all the puns and all that kind of stuff being one side of it, but I think that name's pretty solid.
Yeah, it is. But you mentioned the puns, and you have got away with a lot. What's the brainstorming like when you're doing those promos? Is it literally just you and Matt kind of going, "This will be funny"?
I mean, there's not really that much brainstorming to it. With Matt, what you see is what you get. He's like that on screen. He's like that in the back. He's like that on the road. There's no distinction between Matt Riddle as a character and Matt Riddle as a person, to be honest. So as far as brainstorming goes, it's all from the wacky mind of Matt Riddle.
Well, what we should talk about as well, of course, NXT UK fans at the moment are different in the sense that while the NXT in the States and, of course, Raw and SmackDown are still running, unfortunately, we haven't been able to record any more shows here. So at the moment, it's kind of a best of, seeing a lot of the best work that NXT UK has had over the past year or so. For those who don't know, that will get to know, it's been one of the best in-ring products in the business from most people's money. What kind of matches, either of your own or anyone else, would you recommend from that brand that people need to catch up on and indeed start watching NXT UK?
One of my favourite ones was the tag title match from Cardiff. I don't know if that's been shown yet or if it's going to, but I definitely think people should go and search that out. I think that the big thing about NXT UK is watching it week to week, like any wrestling product these days. Watching it week to week is one thing, but when you can sit down and enjoy those takeovers in full, it really does stand out as being such a great in-ring product that I think doesn't always get the appreciation that it should. And luckily, those takeover shows, when the atmosphere is a little bit different, and it going out live too is important. Really is a great stage for such a great in-ring product to shine. So any of those matches that you see from different takeovers from over the past year or two, I urge people to go, and while you've got some downtime, just go and watch those shows in full, and then you'll see just how great the in-ring product is and just how great the UK audiences are, and so on.
Yeah, I mean, I believe they're doing Tyler and Walter tonight, I think. So again, that's from the Cardiff show. I was at that show. Incredible takeover. When talking about NXT brands, there's often been rumours of different countries maybe following in the UK and the US's footsteps. You're a man who's obviously wrestled far and wide. Like, what do you think would be a great next location for NXT to expand to?
Selfishly, I'd love to wrestle in Japan again. But I know there's a lot of talent who have been in the company from the likes of China and India. So it wouldn't surprise me if it was in that kind of region. To be honest, I'd like to see NXT UK expand more into Europe in general.
Yeah.
I'd like to see, a takeover in, say, Germany, for example, would be fantastic. One of the best audiences I've ever worked in front of was in Paris. And I keep suggesting that venue that we did on the road, I forget the name of it, but it's like an old circus.
Right.
Converted into a venue now. That is the best audience I've ever been in front of. And I've
really?
been for ages. That's where we need a takeover. So I'd love to see NXT UK expand a bit further into Europe, and hopefully that means more shows and livelier audiences and so on.
Yeah, I mean, another thing I wanted to bring up was, and the reason it kind of comes to mind is Vince McMahon mentioned on a conference call yesterday that there was going to be more cinematic matches in WWE. Obviously, for my money, they were a tremendous success over WrestleMania. Gargano Ciampa was also cool. just wanted your thoughts on those matches. Did you have any favourites out of the three of them? Styles, Taker, what do we have? Gargano, Ciampa, and Wyatt and Cena. And also, is there a part of you that's starting to think, if there's going to be these kind of matches, maybe I need to get my thinking cap on how that could apply to me?
Yeah, I think it's not something I ever thought I'd enjoy out of wrestling, but in the current situation, it really was refreshing. When I sat there and watched WrestleMania in full, which the first time in the past 4 years I've watched it at home in front of the TV, obviously not having the audience there does obviously hurt the atmosphere because there's a lack of one at times. So something like that Undertaker Styles match going out was so refreshing and so unusual that I was completely invested, and it did get me thinking about what maybe me and Matt could do in our own maybe more comical version of what's being, So it's an interesting time with these things happening. It's not really my cup of tea. Obviously, I like the more serious, simple in-ring style, but in the current climate, why not? And obviously, there's a huge fan base for it. Doesn't matter if it's not someone's cup of tea, because it seemed like there was a hell of a lot of people that absolutely loved it and found it completely refreshing. So it's an exciting time when, again, in a overly negative situation, pulling any positives we can from it. WWE and wrestling in general is having to broaden its horizons and try different stuff, and who knows what'll stick.
Yeah, I mean, and just like you said, I think that's wrestling full stop, right? Like, it's subjective. So there's going to be people that, enjoy different things. And I think this is probably the time, if there was ever going to be one, that WWE would do that. But, more looking at, you just mentioned as well, TV, it can be a little bit jarring without the audience. How do you think they've coped with putting on the product in front of, no fans in the PC?
Yeah, all respect for all the wrestlers that do that. Obviously, it's a completely different approach. But again, it's a chance to be different. It's a chance. Everything I've tried to do in my career is how can I be slightly different from everyone else? And this is another one of those situations where you can keep working the same as you always did, and you can go out there and just act like nothing's different, or you can use it as an opportunity and go, this is completely different, and it's only the cameras that matter right now. So how can we change what we're doing to be more enjoyable for people at home? And you see that with the likes of the Edge and Randy Orton street fight match, or the more cinematic matches, where it does have a very different feel. And who knows, some of it might not connect that well, but some of it might connect way better than even if there was an audience in there. So it's just a chance to go out there and try different stuff and see what sticks.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks very much for your time today, Pete, as we wind down here. I guess lastly, in terms of, you said you don't really know what the plan is moving forward. Obviously, things are still up in the air. We're kind of at the mercy of government guidelines, I guess. But for you personally, what are you missing the most about at the moment? Is it, being with the boys, or is it, putting on the matches in front of live crowds? Like, what is it for you that you're really working towards again, I guess?
So two parts to that. I think the biggest thing that I've missed is obviously that takeover pre-WrestleMania, because every takeover is what we're working towards. So not being able to get to that point and do that the same, that's upsetting. And then the other side of it, my favourite part of wrestling across the board anyway, is just being on the road and doing those different live events in different towns. That to me, that's what I got into wrestling for, and that's what I enjoy the most. So not being able to do that is the biggest downside for me. But like I say, we're at the mercy of government guidelines, but hopefully it gets resolved sooner rather than later and we can get back to it.
Just quickly on what you said there, because I think I've said this to you before, but I'd like to get your opinion on it again, I guess. I think takeovers, and I'm not just saying this, are the best shows in wrestling. Like, they are, like, comprehensively from start to finish, the best shows in wrestling. Is that something, I know it's a bit of a weird question because you're going to be biased, but objectively speaking, they are, what they are up there, right?
Well, obviously this is an opinion-based business. In my opinion, that's exactly what I want out of pro wrestling. From the atmosphere perspective, to the way it's presented, to the stories that are being told, that is how I like to see pro wrestling. And that's before I even signed with the company. The shows I look forward to most out of the year were always the takeover shows. And a lot of times it was the only wrestling I would really seek out to watch for a while. So for me personally, and I think a lot of a lot of fans agree, and I can see why. The atmosphere is special.
Yeah, definitely. I've been to several, and I'm glad that it translates so well to the UK as well. The UK takeovers have been amazing. Pete, once again, thank you very much. For anyone who hasn't sought out NXT UK during this time of lockdown, please do. There's plenty of that going on the network, and of course, there's a lot of your career to catch on the network at the moment as well, Pete. You know, what was the one match? What's the one match people should go out and see? For me, I would say Tyler in Chicago, but I don't know if I've just stole your answer or not.
Well, I think most people would say the match with Tyler. If you've never seen it, then definitely that one, because that's kind of what made both of our careers. But if you're looking for something that you might not have seen, that's one of my favourite matches, would be me against Jordan Devlin in Birmingham at one of the NXT UK TV tapings in the earlier days. I feel like that's a match that's gone under the radar a little bit, but it's definitely one of my favourites.
Awesome. Pete, thanks again. Look forward to talking to you again soon, mate.
Cheers, mate.